New York for the midday look at what's going on in the news and why it matters. We do come to you from a very busy metropolis, but Kevin McCullough, at heart, still a flyover country boy myself, and that's why I didn't like Mayor Bloomberg telling me I couldn't drink 2 liters of sugary soda in one sitting. It's just none of his business. And now the judge says he can't. So good for him. 888-589-8840. What we're talking about, at least in the first segment, was this new information that's being revealed today that goes along the lines of, we're just getting more dishonest stuff uncovered as it relates to how the government has talked to us about the information they are storing about us. So before, we were a little bit surprised to find out that the executive branch of government had gone to all of the phone companies and said, give us all your contacts. And once they were all captured, they were scanning them for, different things. And, at the same time, they started all this back in 2009 in this new, more aggressive way that they're doing now. And in the process of doing that, I keep going through the replays of footage in my head where, you had over the course of those same amounts of time, you had people like Janet Napolitano coming out going, you know who the real terrorists are? They're pro-lifers. Pro-lifers are the real terrorists. People that want to own guns in their houses. Those are the real terrorists. I don't know if Janet Napolitano sounds like John Wayne, but I thought if I was just going to pick a voice, that's... But that's what we were told. Former military people. Those are the ones we really have to be watching. Well, I didn't understand that to begin with. And now we've got all the NSA capturing all of our data. They're keeping it. And they're saying to us, hey, look, about that only 1 or 2 people having access to it, just the most superior security clearances. That wasn't true. Yeah, no, we had lots more people using the information, thumbing through it. Even the computer department, the IT guys. That's pretty much what Edward Snowden was. He was a lower level guy. And we wouldn't even know this if he wasn't in Russia spilling secrets that the government doesn't want us to know. It's a very different day when I wake up these days in America. I pinch myself going, I don't really feel like this is the same country I grew up in. This just seems so far removed from that. 888-589-8840. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be glad to discuss it with you. Let's talk to Michael calling from Texas. Hi, Michael. You're on AFA Today with Kevin McCullough.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to call in.
Sure thing.
Listen, I'm just going to make a couple of quick facts, and I'll hang up and listen.
Okay.
Now, if you recall, our head of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, put out, when she first got into power, a memorandum to all law enforcement agents that said, you could be a terrorist if.
Right.
These are 4 things that apply to me. 1, if you don't believe in abortion, you could be a terrorist. If you believe in the Second Amendment, you could be a terrorist.
You're kind of doing this with the rhythm and delivery of Jeff Foxworthy. You could be a redneck. Are you doing that on purpose, or are you just playing? You just being an entertainer with us today?
Both. but these are still facts that you get.
No, absolutely they are.
And you could, if you are a military veteran, in other words, if you fought for this country, you could be a terrorist. And if you believe and literally put in her memorandum the second coming of Christ, in other words, if you're a Christian, you could be a terrorist. And this is not to mention that our U.S. Army has recently accelerated breaking, entering, and detaining training, along with that as of the first of this year, the U.S. government can now detain indefinitely anyone that could be considered a terrorist.
Yeah, no, and wasn't it ironic, Michael, that same memo in which all those things were included that you just made mention of, there wasn't any mention of, I don't know, attending a mosque that was headed by radical clerics that might have published works on the internet calling for the absolute Holocaust-like destruction of the West? I mean, I would think, I don't know, all the terrorist activities in recent years in America have come from, young adult male Muslims, right? And so I would think that, going to a mosque where the cleric was shouting hate speech and, brainwashing people into this type of, I would think that would be somewhere on the list. Maybe not in the top 4 that you mentioned, but maybe, like down around 37 or so. But we didn't get it at all.
Well, see, there you go, thinking that logically and the way things are supposed to be, you're not being our president, and that's your mistake.
All right, Michael. I'm roughly corrected by your admonition today. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I think he should take that. You might be a terrorist acting on the road. He had the timing down. You know what I'm saying? Well, if you like unborn babies, you might be a terrorist. Let's go back to the phones. I'm being a little silly. I think it's the soda that I'm not supposed to have, but I can't do anything about it now, Mayor Bloomberg. Let's go to Brenda in Florida. Brenda, welcome. You're on with Kevin McCullough on AFA Today. Thanks for being here.
Hello, Kevin. Are you enjoying your Coke?
Yeah. I don't know that I said what the actual brand was on the air, so that's very inventive of you to figure that out there.
Go for the gusto.
There you go.
Anyway, we never, ever know what we're going to wake up to anymore. As I was waiting for your program to come on today, I was switching stations on TV, and I came across on a public station, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or watched it, but it's called Intelligence Squared, where they have the debates about different subjects.
Nope.
Well, today, I didn't get the beginning of it, but it was about, Kevin, get this, genetically engineered babies, to where they actually go into the embryo, and if the parent does not want a gene in that baby, they do away with it, or if they think there is a medical problem with the baby, with the embryo, they do away with it. The thing is that there was a gentleman on there from Britain that there has been done animal tests on there. There was one incident where there was a mouse that had been genetically engineered, and it ran faster, but it turned out to be sort of like an animal that was rabid. It changed completely, and what they don't know about this is what's going to happen later on down the road. Now, they're thinking about, okay, if you want a blue-eyed boy, if you want a blue-eyed girl, if you don't have the intelligence in either parent, you can genetically engineer that embryo to where that baby will have the intelligence, Kevin.
This has been a concern, Brenda, for a little while because once we unlocked the genome, the human DNA map, if you will, it gave scientists a different access to genetic makeup. And I think that your concern for this is absolutely true, and it's something that we need to especially hold lawmakers accountable to not allow these types of progresses to go forward into the custom design of human beings. I think we're on very, very bad ground there. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I will. I looked up Intelligence Squared. I'll do a little more digging on that and see if I can't get back to you with something substantive. Let's go to Jennifer in Arkansas. Jennifer, you're up next. We were talking about the fact that the government has taken more and more and more information from us, and now we're being told that more and more and more and more people know about it than what we were originally told. Your thoughts on that? Welcome.
You're correct. Thank you. I'm rather surprised that more people didn't already know. Back before Facebook was really popular, I had a MySpace, account. And one thing that was interesting about MySpace is that if you wrote a blog or if you were online, you could tell exactly how many people viewed your page or read your blog, and it was something that you could, monitor your social media. Well, I had written a Christian blog, and it was just about being under spiritual attack, doubt and all that stuff, and it was titled Attack. Well, as soon as I published it, just about 20 seconds later, I had 30 hits. And I never had, that many people read my blog, so I knew something was not right. And I think this was in 2006. So, I talked with a computer friend, and he said, oh, yeah, they're monitoring all of that. They look for keywords. So immediately I already knew that we were being monitored. And, I dealt with it. I prayed about it. And I know that there's so much privilege in knowing that you don't have anything to hide. But,
right.
On the flip side of it, this is, our personal freedoms. I read a story just a couple of weeks ago of a lady that lives here in my town, and she was being harassed by a local law enforcement who had access to her personal information. This was on a personal level, but it was still someone who was able to use the access that he had to the same computer program, computer system to harass, another individual, knew her location, knew different things about her life, was able to relay this to her in a form that was harassing. So I do know that there is the tendency out there of evil people to use what could be a tool for, evil purposes. And, I'm an art teacher, so I know a pair of scissors, it can be a tool or it can be a weapon. And, I look at what we have with NSA or, just any kind of technology. It can be something that can be used for good, but it can also be used for evil. And unfortunately, we would have to increase the size of government to monitor and regulate, and which kind of just, perpetuates the problem with our economy.
No, there's no doubt that it perpetuates the problem. We've already got too much government doing too much of this to begin with. And Jennifer, thank you for your personal anecdote in terms of what happened to you. And let me say something that I want to be quite clear about. Something that Jennifer said towards the end is that something can be basically amoral by itself. A pair of scissors can be used to inflict pain. It can also be used to do good things. Same thing could be said of a dinner fork or a gun or any number of things. But there's always this kind of two-sided thing to amoral objects. And I look at technology largely that way. Technology in and of itself isn't bad. The things that we can do, not particularly troubling, as long as it's attached to the character of a person that is trustworthy. See, it's the character of the souls of individuals that actually determines the difference in whether or not we lose freedoms or we keep them, whether or not we advance the cause of human freedom around the world or we shrink it. And this is why, and George Bush Sr. was always criticized when he attempted in his run against Bill Clinton to point out that character is really important. Having a good reputation, being a person of uprightness, being a person that is a man of their word and able to be trusted, that kind of stuff is really important. And what we end up getting when we don't put an emphasis on that are utilitarian people that actually believe the truth is irrelevant and that they will stomp all over it to get their way, to do their thing. What we've seen is under President George W. Bush, policies that were enacted immediately following 9/11 that were intended to target just the communication mechanisms of terrorist cells, terrorist numbers, things that we had access to and that we could discover over time as we sent people undercover into those cells, et cetera, et cetera. We could demonstrate a need to tap a terrorist phone line. The Patriot Act never approved, in any of its forms, the widespread tapping of every phone line in America. It never approved that. It never approved the collecting of data on every phone user in America. What the government is doing right now, and we had Brooke Goldstein on to explain this to us, but they're using this theory of the third party, where the Supreme Court in the past has said if you use a third-party provider for a service, then you don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And in phone line situations, you never have less than a third party. because nobody owns their own phone company. So at the end of the day, you're always going through an internet service provider or a phone service provider or a cellular service provider. And if the government believes that they can snatch up all of the private records of these service providers, then we as the American people are never going to have a permanent expectation of anything private. And I think that's going to put a chilling effect on everything from the expression of our religious faith to our involvement in political activity to the very welfare and security of our own nation. And friends, I've had a lot of fun joking around this hour. This is all exceedingly serious. 888-589-8840. Maybe you think I'm just too wound up about this. Tell me if I'm wrong. Let's talk to Toby, who's calling us. Actually, Toby, hold on. We're going to get to you right after the break. That break means that we're going to take this stop here, and then we'll be back with the final segment. We're discussing this new round of information that says that metadata that was taken from our records wasn't just kept by just a couple of people, just a small group of people. There's actually a lot more people that have access to that info than we ever knew before, and I've asked you your opinion on it. Stay with us. It's AFA Today with Kevin McCullough, live from New York, and we're glad you're with us each weekday at the same time, right here on AFR Talk.